Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Vertical Consultant Collaboration Program Deep Dive on 8x8's Contact Center. It's a topic that's hot right now. A lot of people are interested, and I'm really excited to have Kevin Butler here to tell us all about the details. And thank you for joining us. So Kevin, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Fran. Remind everyone to mute their microphones if they would. We will certainly take questions as we go. Try and get to that mostly at the end, though, so that we can get through. We have a lot of content to go through here, and I'm going to start out being really honest. This isn't going to be a deep dive. We just don't have the time. We're going to try and get to as many things as possible. We're going to cover as much as possible and get you interested in it. And if there's stuff that you want to get into, you really want to get a true deep dive, talk with Fran, and we can certainly get something scheduled that's a true deep dive. Let me give you an example. Earlier this year, we had a deal that was brought to us by a consultant. We went in and went through the bid process and did what the head of 8x8 Contact Center called their most comprehensive demo of the virtual contact center product that had ever been done. It lasted 6.5 hours. So that's a deep dive. But we're going to do, swim around in there and look at everything and give you an idea. And if you've heard us talk about Contact Center before, I promise you'll see some stuff new that you've never seen before on this call today. But we're going to hit a lot of different things. So let's talk a little bit about what we are going to hit. We're going to talk about the difference that we call V8, which is vertical and 8x8. We'll talk a little more about that. We'll do an overview of the 8x8 Contact Center. And what makes it different than other things in the industry. We'll talk a little bit about it versus the industry as well. Then we'll get into a couple of different levels and flavors. We'll talk about what kind of capabilities and abilities are there for the contact center supervisor. We'll look at administration some. We'll start to get into some of the advanced feature set. And then particularly we'll dive into the intelligent IVR product, which has just recently been added to the 8x8 portfolio, and finish up by talking about how we can add value here at Vertical to this whole process. And then hopefully we'll have some time left and we can cover some questions from all of you. So let's dive in so we can roll through all of this. First, we like to talk about V8. That is the combination of Vertical and 8x8. 8x8 bringing their industry-leading cloud contact center, and Vertical bringing our tailored solutioning, our expertise, our expert installation and implementation team, and our award-winning support team. So the key portion of this here, the unique experience, is you're going to get all of Vertical's great capabilities and our decades of experience doing installations, supporting customers. You're not going to have to depend on 8x8 to do that. They do a perfectly fine job. It's just not as good as the job that we do, to be honest. Because we have a really, really great team that provides you solution design, and that solution design comes from the team of expert solution engineers. Some of you have met some of our solution engineers. They're really great people. And the really important piece of this is they start out helping to tailor the solution for customers, figuring out what they really need, focusing on that customer, but they stay on through the installation and support process so that there's always a technical expert that is involved, that's been there from the very beginning to be the voice of the customer and talk about what the customer had wanted in the sales process to make sure that it's delivered in the implementation process. And it's somebody they can always go back and touch base with if they have questions later on in the support process. So really, let's get into this. That's enough about how great we are. We're great. But let's spend a little bit of time talking about the 8x8 Contact Center. And I want to start off at an overview. We'll just use, the Gartner Magic Quadrants. There is a very, very key difference when you look at, this is this year's Magic Quadrants. And that difference is there's only one name that shows up on both of these. If you're looking at UCaaS and CCaaS, there is only one vendor that actually shows up on both of these charts, and that's 8x8, because they own their own contact center solution, just like they own all of their applications. And it's not just that they've recently done this. They've been on the UCaaS quadrant for 9 years. They've been on the CCaaS quadrant for 6 years. They've been into this for quite a while. And it is that owning all of their own solution that is one of the differences here that we can see out there today. We talk a lot of and get a lot of bids that we do for various contact center applications. And one of the pieces is always, how is this going to integrate with the base phone system? How is it going to integrate with the existing solution? the real value that 8x8 brings is that integration is tight because both products are from the same vendor. And that vendor has a really, really robust infrastructure for all of this to be on. 16 data centers worldwide, and these data centers are SSAE 16 certified. They are highly secure. They are highly managed and monitored. So part of what you're getting, as you are with any good as a service solution, is the people that are monitoring and controlling this, not just, hey, I'm renting the software. To focus in on the United States a little bit, there are 3 data centers, the main one in Ashburn, Virginia, and Santa Clara, California, a secondary testing center in Santa Clara, California as well. And these are connected by multiple 10 gigabit connections across the country so that they stay synced and are working together at all times. If you have a customer in the United States, all their data is kept in the United States. It does not go out to the other data centers. The advantage of this architecture and infrastructure is it allows redundant failover through the use of multiple different geolocated data centers. So if your customer has a problem and their data center goes completely down in Ashburn, Virginia, their service can be taken over by Santa Clara, California. This includes both the unified communications as well as there's an option to do this for the contact center as well. So you can have geo-redundancy for the contact center. Inside those data centers, there are multiple redundant pieces for every single part of the infrastructure that serves your customer. That starts with the load balancer, goes through the firewall and routers, down into the switching fabric. So every single network connection has multiple network ports assigned to it to make sure that failover of just the simple switching infrastructure doesn't take something out. There are multiple redundant servers serving out every application, including contact center. So there's very, very little opportunity for a failure here. And then finally, the data is maintained in encrypted siloed database clusters where your individual customer's data is going to be kept separate from everybody else's and only accessible by them. All of this results in guaranteed service, and there's an SLA option both for the contact center as well as the base UC platform, 8x8 Work. That platform SLA isn't just for uptime, it is also for call quality as well. So it may, it doesn't serve your customer at all if, well, hey, I have an uptime guarantee, and yeah, the product's up, but I can't understand a word that's being said by people calling in. That's no good at all, right? So the call quality SLA is a key portion of this. And this is very real. There's a lot of times when I see SLAs and you look into the terms and say, yeah, but am I really going to get anything out of that? We did have a customer this year who had an issue. It was specific to them that caused a problem with their contact center. We verified it, validated it, pushed with 8x8 and made sure that they got a credit of about $1,000 on their bill for this downtime that they were out. So this is a very real thing with real financial requirements and I was going to say retribution. That seems like an overly powered word, but there are actually penalties going on here to make sure that it's enforced and worthwhile. So what kind of contact center options are we talking about with this? Well, there are several different buckets that you can get. We start out down at the X2 level, which is really a very basic contact center, but it's a very affordable one. We'll talk about it more here in just a moment. Then we get on up into what we call our X6, X7, and X8, each one adding more and more capabilities. If you have a customer who wants multi-channel capabilities with email, chat, social media, SMS support, you would go to the X7. If you want to add in outbound capabilities, or you're looking at a customer who wants quality management capabilities, speech analytics, they would go to the X8 level. And all of these are very simple packages, making it very easy to quote. There isn't like 40 different options to throw in there. It's all bundled up in these very simple packages. And that bundle is very different from just about everyone else's packaging as well, for a simple, clear reason, which is the 8x8 package includes a UCAS seat with every single one of these. So there is a UC seat. There's the ability to use a soft phone, a dedicated hard phone. You get that extension on the UC platform as part of these call center seats, which, by the way, also includes now 30 days of call recording storage out of the box. So call recording in the contact center is often very important. The storage piece can be a real question of how much storage they need and everything else. 8x8 has simplified this by just doing it time-based. You can have 30 days. You can go ahead and buy 130 days. And then you can get into cold storage options of 1 to 10 years, depending upon regulatory requirements. But the base number here is already already included in these seats, so that you already have that capability, and you can start leveraging a lot of the capabilities to work with call recordings right out of the box without having to worry about add-on storage. So let's look at some of these in detail. First, the X2 entry level. This is really included in the UC platform. It is a very, very simple contact center that's a step above, a hunt group or even a basic ACD. It's got some really great features. There's an IVR capability to have hold messages played. There's the ability to have agents sign themselves in and out, to have a supervisor see what's going on and be able to sign out agents, to have a wall board and a dashboard to see what's happening, reporting on this. There's some real capabilities here, and it's extremely affordable. I'll tell you, it's sub $30 a seat. So you're not going to find virtually any other contact center product in that price range, certainly. So this is one that has some real advantages. Like I said, there's some reporting capability. It is limited. I mean, at that price, you're not going to get a lot of customization. There's a lot of the advanced features we'll talk about a little later on. This is really only voice oriented. But for a lot of customers, this is what they need. They just need the ability to go a step above. Hey, look, I don't just need a basic ring group. I need some management capabilities, people signing in and out, supervisor able to manage them a bit. And this provides some great capabilities in that format. So hold on here just a moment. Let me bring up for a moment this platform and show I'm here in the administration for the UC system here. And you'll see call queues. I've got a number of them set up, but I'll just go into our service queue here real quick. And you'll see I can set up phone numbers associated to it just by adding them in. How many calls do I want to queue and stack up in here? It can handle up to a maximum of 20 calls stacked up. I can implement wrap-up time, so agents can actually do paperwork or whatever follow-up tasks, so that can be implemented. I can set the system to automatically bounce people from taking calls for a period of time, so that if you have somebody who's walked away from their desk, we're not re-handing calls to them repeatedly. And I've got the ability to pull and add on IVR capabilities. Put in initial queue messages, but also put in repeating messages that play. Now, none of this is the ability of real customization that you can get in the true contact center product we're going to look at, but it's good enough in a lot of cases. I can have primary and overflow members, and I can have the ability to set up a voicemail box dedicated for all of this. In addition, I have the ability to look at reporting specifically for this. So here's a quick view of one of the queues, and I can look at and see stats and what's going on. I can get detailed information on the individual agents. All of this is downloadable. There's not a lot of customization here. Once again, I can control what some of these fields are, but I'm not going to be able to build really custom reports. But it's a great start, and that's really the point of this. So that's a very, very cost-effective option. Gets a lot of customers who need some basic capabilities. Often we see this with like an internal IT team or customer service team serving the internal customers in an organization. But when we want to go a step further, we get into the X6, X7, and X8 seats we saw a moment ago. And just to remind, X6 is voice only, X7 gives you multi-channel capabilities, and X8 gets you into outbound calling and a lot of more of the hefty quality management, speech analytics kind of pieces as well. So all of this works through the same console. Doesn't matter if you're X6 through X8, you're going to have the same software that you're using, and it's going to work in the same basic way. That software is web-based. It can actually even be an overlay. If they have a customer who really doesn't want the 8x8 UC platform, we can offer it as just an overlay software to another product. But normally we offer it as part of the 8x8 package with these bundled in UCCs that I talked about. So rather than throwing a bunch of slides, here actually is the real end user console. You'll see that over here I've got the ability to handle all of my agent functions on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, once again, one of the key features here is the fact that I am able to actually interact with everybody else on the PBX. So I've got a live listing of all PBX users here that I can get into and chat and call and see presence. And so as an agent, I'm directly tied into the rest of the system. So I see my user Zeb Pike here. I can see he's available. I can send him a chat message. Say, whoops. Right. And so here's Zeb's window for you for a moment. This is over on another one of my computers. So, and you can see Zeb's just getting it within his 8x8 client and can talk back and forth between the two platforms. Now, one of the other pieces of the integration here, though, is Zeb also happens to be a contact center agent. So he can also access this chat in his contact center console if he wants. The same conversation is going on back and forth. He can get to it in either place. He can get to it on his mobile device, on his desktop UC software, or in his agent console. It's all the same conversation. But the real point here, of course, is handling calls to and from queues and working with calls, chats, etc. So let's just see a quick demonstration of that. I'm going to have a call.
Thank you for calling EasyQ, your source for your queuing needs. If you know your party's 4-digit extension number, you may enter it now. To speak with a customer service representative, please press 1 now. To request an automatic callback, press.
Please remain on the line after your call for a brief survey.
So here's my inbound call. You'll see I've got all of my information about the caller, where they came in on, who they're coming to, all of that immediately available for me. I've got all my call control capabilities. In this case, this user has the ability to control recording, and they can see that they're being recorded, and they can pause recording temporarily to work with somebody who happens to have, be providing information that's covered by privacy policy, PHI in a healthcare situation, something like that. So there's multiple different ways of working with that, but all of my controls are right here where I can control the phone and put the caller on hold, bring them back, mute the call, which all the way, everything that you do here is reported on, so you can see it in the customer experience of what's happening with all of this. The other part about this is I can, once again, interact with the directory. So if I wanted to go and transfer this call to somebody, I can find them, initiate the call here, and just transfer the call off. So it's a very, very easy system to use of working with everybody else on the 8x8 system as well. Now, as we heard, as the call was coming in, I've also built in, just to demonstrate something else, a post-call survey here. So I'm finished as an agent. I'm going to hang up the call.
Thank you for choosing to take our survey. Was your agent knowledgeable on your product on a scale for 1 to 5, with 1 being least knowledgeable and 5 being most knowledgeable? Did the agent say thank you for calling? The survey is complete. Thank you for your feedback.
So that was just using the text-to-speech engine built in. Post-call survey, we'll see how you can set that up a little bit. But built-in capability here that you can roll into the scripting on the 8x8 product as well. So the other thing that I thought I'd show just momentarily is working with the chat interface. So if I pull in a window here, here's a mock-up of the vertical communications page. And you'll see in a moment here, we have a pop-up box asking if somebody wants assistance down here. This box is actually served entirely off the 8x8 servers. There's not a ton of coding that has to be done. Makes it easy for customers to add chat capability in. All they have to do is drop in one line of code into their website. And once they do that, then this can take over and allow there to be a chat box served entirely by 8x8, which, by the way, all of this box is built with a graphical interface. So once again, no coding necessary. If somebody wants to get into a much more advanced coding interface, we have APIs for handling that. But this makes it much easier to get out of the box and add those chat capabilities in, which I'm seeing more and more customers who are not doing that today with their contact center wanting to add those capabilities in. So I'm going to ask to get help, and it's going to ask me, because I told it to ask for an account number. So I'll put in an account number here and submit it. And now it's looking for an agent. And I'll now split the screen. You'll see my agent is available here. So I've got the chat message coming in and alerting me that there's a chat. And I can end my current conversation and pick up this new one. Or I can handle both conversations at once. You can handle multiple conversations. So the answer to the question of the account number is showing up here. I could have set this up to match with an account record in the CRM and bring that up if I wanted to, but we're keeping it simple. And I can come here and just enter a short code, and it automatically inserts text for me so that I am constantly going through this conversation. I want to type thank you for contacting Vertical. My name is Kevin Butler. How may I help you? I can instead type 4 characters and send it off. And you'll see it's popping up over here. This whole conversation is then stored. Supervisors can see it. And if I needed to, and they actually said, hey, I need service here, I could transfer them over to another queue instead and send them somewhere else where they needed to go. I could also do the same with an individual agent and send the call over to them, or send the chat over to them as well. So you can transfer between different organizations and different parts and pieces of this. All right. So I told you, this is less a deep dive and more a whirlwind tour. Oh, I pulled away the wrong window. I wanted to keep the chat window. Sorry. So as an agent, as you see up here, I'm using the same console for working through phone calls, through chat, through email. All of that is working in the same interface and environment. I've got the ability to see multiple different queues that I'm working with and see how many people are waiting, what's going on. And if I'm a supervisor, I can even drop in and monitor what's happening in those queues just from this same console. The right-hand side is always about providing you more information. It's set up in a directory. It can also look into, there's a local CRM built into the product, so you can use that if a customer doesn't have a appropriate CRM tool as they're bringing up their contact center. Or you can integrate this interface over here into other products such as Salesforce, NetSuite, Microsoft, et cetera, and they can use this same toolbar just in that CRM, where once again, this is the left-hand side, and then the rest of it comes up using the CRM's interface itself. I'm going to go ahead and take us out of available because we're going to go on to talk about other things. You'll note, obviously, status codes can be added in here. I'm at this point, I'm going to go back to explaining things in a demo because that's what I'm doing right now. All right. So before I get into the supervisor side of things, I'm going to take a quick break and say, hey, look, is everyone still awake? Are there immediate questions of what I've shown you here? Clearly, I've put everybody to sleep. Good job. Let's go ahead and talk about supervisors. Real quick, this is just a demonstration of the reporting side of that survey that we did a moment ago, and let you see how you can go through and see the overall survey results, what the answers you're getting, but you can also dig into each of these calls and see what's happening with each of them. And that's more of a supervisor feature, so that's where we want to go next and talk about the supervisor. The supervisor has a lot of tools going on that they can use here. We'll start off with the analytics dashboard. So you can build, unlike the X2 level, very simple contact center. Someone's got a phone ringing. If you could, mute yourself.
Please, so can I call you back in about a half hour?
I guess.
All right. I'll call you back.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So the dashboard here allows us to be able to customize the information that you need to see to the supervisor's heart's content, then save it, share it out with the entire team. You'll see I've got my favorites here that I'm going into, and I've assigned to myself that I can go in and see these individual dashboards. I can see multiple different queues if I want and all the stats going on. I also am seeing agent performance down here because I put that in. And then I've got single queue stat blocks, which color coding to let us know if there are thresholds being violated, if there are problems and concerns going on. So I can just click on my little pencil icon here to change what the information is. I can add widgets of all sorts, either about historical data or real-time data. I can put in, information about the queue as a whole, about agents, or just specific point stats, such as these ones down here, where I'm looking at specific individual stats. I can also take an existing object that I've got on here and change it around. Like, for example, instead of single queue stat, when we built this, obviously we weren't thinking very much. You could name it exactly what it is. I can also choose, hey, what queue am I monitoring? What stat do I want in this individual box? And I can also enable what's called dynamic filtering. And dynamic filtering allows this queue summary view up here to control what's happening in other boxes. So I can switch between queue values. So if I change this to enable dynamic filtering, I can now move the box back and forth by choosing to go through queues. So if you'll look in this green longest wait box, you'll see it's on easy queue right now. And then when I click on the callback, it switches over to the callback. So I can actually use this view to monitor multiple different queues and switch back and forth and move the data on the rest of the dashboard based upon what I'm choosing here. So infinite possibilities here of creating a dashboard that meets the needs of specific supervisors within the team and allow them to see the information that they need. I mentioned thresholds just a moment ago. So I can come up here and choose what kind of thresholds we're looking at. So here, for example, I'm looking at if there are more than two callers waiting in queue, I'm getting into a warning area. And at warning, I'm going to change the color. At danger, which is we've set to 3 or more people waiting in queue, I'm going to actually play a sound on all workstations that are using this dashboard. So I can do an auditory alert, I can do a visual alert, I can let people know what's going on, and I can have different sets of thresholds and set those different thresholds up for different queues, different groups of queues throughout the whole system. So there's a lot of capability here for the supervisor to see the information that they need and customize it exactly to their needs. Very different from the X2 environment, where it's pretty much what you see is what you get. In the same way, we have the ability to take all of the reports in this system and customize them as well. You'll see here's a number of customized reports that I have here, where I can come in, see the results of the report, see all the information, but I can also customize exactly what I'm looking at, choose which different fields are going to be seen, which ones aren't, choose the order. And then once I've got that ready, I can save it off, give it a unique name, and use it for myself. I can share it out to other people in the organization and choose who else I want to have who can view or edit it. Or I can not interact with this at all anymore and just schedule this to show up. So I can send this out depending upon the report, I can choose an XLS, I can choose a CSV, I can choose a PDF format, and I can choose who I want to send it to. Don't have to be on the system because this is just using email. So I can have my weekly report show up every Monday morning about how the queue did last week, or I can have my end of day report show up and send out to all of the team leaders. Key point of running through all this is it is a very easy and interactive interface to work through, making it simple for not just vertical to set up, and we'll work with the customer very closely to set this up initially, but for them to self-service over time and make changes and grow as to how they're working with the analytics package. But beyond just looking at stats, there's a lot more for the supervisor here. The next thing we'll look at is live monitoring. And all of this is in the same application. I've just got it open in multiple windows, so it's easier for us to quickly see. So I can see all of the agents that I'm supervising. I can see who is available and on target at the moment. And I can choose to monitor them. So I've just clicked on Zeb Pike, and now I'm seeing his screen monitoring. 8x8 provides the ability for screen recording and monitoring. We do have a little bit of an install widget that you have to put in place that runs, and you'll see the icon for that here, this little rocket ship. That has to be installed on any agent that you're going to be doing this on, because obviously it would be really horrible if we found a way through a web browser to be able to record somebody's screen. But so I can then, as a supervisor, live monitor, and also we can have that screen recording chosen as well, so that that can be used. From the same interface, I can do call monitoring and choose that I'm going to monitor. And as soon as this agent gets a call, that would ring and activate on my phone or whatever my audio path is as a supervisor, and I could be able to listen in. By the way, I also have the ability to zoom in and out, because sometimes it's hard to read depending on how you have these screens set up. No, my record screen capability, and I'm just going to end monitoring now. In addition to live monitoring like this, and by the way, if I have a large number of agents, if you have a large contact center, I have a very robust filtering system to be able to go through and say, am I looking for people who have screen recording? Here's the agent. Base it on who their supervisor or who else is in their field, and go narrow down who I'm looking for. I also have a very quick ability to say, I want to see agents who are currently available. I want to see agents who are actively handling calls. I want to see agents working offline. Be able to sort this list quickly. When you're working in a larger call center, you may have a large number of agents and you need to move quickly through them. But this same interface is going to give me the ability to look into historical calls. So we certainly have the ability to search and look through a call log list, and we'll look at that here in a moment. But I would then step to the next piece, which is speech analytics capability. This comes with the X8, or it can be added on. And the speech analytics capability takes every call, takes the recording of it. Remember, every call can be recorded, on the base platform with no additional cost. And you keep it for 30 days. Those calls are can then be recorded, transcribed, and have the 8x8 speech analytics engine look at those calls. They're looking for keywords, they're looking at tone of voice, they're looking at other information to provide you the ability to quickly narrow in on the calls you should be looking for, rather than just doing a random sampling of 1 out of X calls and going through and checking, I need to check this number of calls and these people. This brings to the top the calls that you're most interested in. You can see I can look at calls for customer experience, collection and debt. These are all built-in categories that are already established on day one. So we've already pre-populated this whole system with several hundred categories and topics to make the system relevant to you immediately. But you can then start having the system suggest topics to you. So you can see here are keywords that it's hearing in conversations a lot, and saying, hey, maybe you want to make this a category or make this a topic. And you can add and customize as you go, so that the system gets better and better at focusing in on the topics that are important in your particular contact center. I can drill down into any of these just by double clicking on this, and then it drills down and shows me agent-driven solutions, empathy, caller issue resolved, caller negative emotion, caller do not call. So maybe I want to go into here, and I click on it, and I can now go and see the list of all caller negative emotion calls. And I told you a moment ago, there's a list view. Here we have it set up where I can see all these calls. Somebody's been messing with the categories and simplified this down just to 2 things. So hold on a second. Let's try it that way. It looks a little better. So you obviously can control what you want to see as the list. But now I can see all the calls that had a caller negative emotion scenario and very quickly drill into this. This same view that I'm in is the way that you can dig into all sorts of other topics. There's a really, really robust search field here with a huge number of parameters that you can look for. So you could just use this for your classic call log I'm searching through, but the speech analytics piece allows you to quickly find the calls that you should be looking at. So when I click on a call, I can see I very quickly have my pane over here, which shows me all of my information about the call, allows me to add labels. So as I'm going through and doing a review of calls as a supervisor, I can label, call to be reviewed, compliance concern, or some of the things that are obvious in here. You can set up whatever you want or add new labels on the fly and call this. And now people can go search by those labels and find the calls quickly going forward. So this might be calls to be reviewed, as you saw the label here, that can be added on to make sure that your compliance officer is being able to go through and reviewing all those calls that are being identified by the supervisors. As I come down here, I quickly see my complete speech transcript, so I can read the call as I go and look through all the sections. I can also see the tags that it's put in where it's found that caller negative emotion, and it will jump me right to the point where that person is saying that. I also have a caller legal threat in here, probably something I really want to look at, and we can see what they're talking about and find those comments very, very quickly. We'll talk more about quality management in a moment, but quality management evaluations can happen in this same interface, and I can find and do them right out of this interface as well. So I'm going to clear out this search real quick. And go do another one, which is, I'm going to look at interaction types and find me interaction types that have video for a moment, because this same interface is what you can use to go see those call recordings, but as well as the screen shares. So here are my calls with an interaction type that includes video. And you'll see my video right here. I can also pop this panel larger so that I can view it in a separate window. And now I can go through and watch this whole thing by starting the bar and listen to my call right in this interface. I can see that the agent paused recording, then started again, another pause, and continued on. Remember, don't try and actually interact with that interface. It's just a recording. That's what I just did. Tried to close the window by clicking on a wrong X. So that's involved here as well. I have the ability, if I'm going to do an evaluation, then I have this same interface that gives me the whole video. It gives me the whole transcription and all that information here. And on my left-hand side, you'll see here's my template for my evaluation that I can step through and, go through all of the questions, leave comments, etc. And at the same time, I can be viewing the video, listening to the audio if it's just an audio path here, right through this interface, and allows me to go through my whole evaluation. I can also highlight things as I go through and hit specific points and add labels that goes back to the individual agent to let them know, hey, here's a good point, here's a bad point. And they're notified in the same agent interface to let them know they have a new evaluation immediately, and they can see any call outs that their supervisor or evaluator has done to let them know what's going on. So there's a lot of great capability there on the quality management side as well. Once again, built in directly, it's part of the product. It's not a third party that you add on for that. All right, so we're going to spend a minute on administration of all of this. So here is the contact center administration side. And I've got the ability to come in, set up my inbound channels. So these are phone numbers, email addresses, chat connections, etc. And then point them on into a script. And that script is really what's going to control the detailed routing of the whole setup. So if I come in here to the EasyQ script, for example, This script can start out looking very simple. Oh, hey, I come in and I just do a scheduled action. I look if the schedule is open or closed, or if it's on one of our alternates that we have. But when I open it, I'll see there's a lot more going on. So I open it, and we can see the menu tree. And this is what we heard just a moment ago. We can hear a menu. We can see, if I edit it here, what the opening menu is, or I can use text-to-speech to type it out and use that instead. So use prompts or text-to-speech in any of these. And then I'll see my option 0, my option 1, which then sends this call to a queue, and then also provides the post-call survey piece of this. I can also set myself up for a callback if they chose option 2, and here's a callback script that allows them to enter their phone number or use the caller ID and then get scheduled and put into the queue for a callback. And you can set up what other options. This itself could be, about 2 hours just to go through how the whole process is. But the nice part about this is a very, very accessible scripting piece where you don't have to have a programmer working on XML to make changes to the script for the queue. This is something that is a graphical interactive engine that actually provides the prompts, provides what you can and can't do, provides all that detail. So you can have the manager, administrator of the call queues of your contact center be able to actually control and change these scripts very, very easily. You also have the ability to come in here and make changes to the individual users, assign them as supervisors, give them different capabilities. So here I am. We can see that I'm enabled. What languages am I working in? What capabilities that I have? What phone am I using? This is just my 8x8 UC workplace phone, but this could be an external phone number. This could be anything else. From the perspective of what we've all just been going through the last few months of moving people remote, we had a number of our contact center customers who literally just sent their people home. They used either their mobile or their desktop UC soft phones from 8x8. Software can be downloaded anywhere. And that became their new phone. And they didn't have to change anything here, but they could have also input their phone number in here and just use their cell phone as well. So it makes it very easy for people to go remote, to work at home. The web console we're looking at can be accessed from anywhere with the appropriate credentials that you can get an internet connection. And it made it very, very simple. All of our customers on this product had no problems transitioning to the home environment. While a lot of our on-premise customers, to be honest, we made a lot of money there shifting people who were on-premise to at home because there was a lot of configuration for remote, a lot of work to do there. So the other thing that I was going to show there, sorry I got out of there too soon, is I can choose, what queues and what skill level in that queue each agent has. And I'll see all of my queues across all my different media types. So I can see email, I can see chat, I can see all those different types here. And when you start to get into a lot of queues, and we have a decent number, but when you start to get into large organizations, there's also the ability to do a filter and narrow this down so that you're just looking at the list of queues that you want to look at. In the same way, I can assign a person as a supervisor and say, hey, they've got the supervisory ability for just these queues or just these groups of agents. Here's who they can see, and so therefore you can narrow it down in that respect. Things like status codes and transaction codes are very easy to set up here as well. Interface is something, once again, that you don't have to be highly technical to get in and use. You can just add a new name, choose what kind of status it maps to, choose what group it's assigned to, and therefore they can be making changes on things like status and transaction codes very easily. I mentioned chat design very early on. I showed chat. Here's how simple it really is to set up and change chat. So you'll see here's my box that I made, and I literally did this in about 5 minutes earlier this morning, where I put in a new logo file for the vertical circular logo here. I changed the background color just by clicking on this box, but you can choose any color that's got a hex code for it. Border text, exactly what's being said here. So if I wanted to change that to vertical help, it'll show you exactly what's going to change. And this is all real time. As soon as I hit save, the web page has changed. There is no updating of the web page. There's no code or anything. Makes it very, very easy to move changes. I can then control my actual form, and I'll even, just to save time, just show the chat window real quick. This is how, we make all of these things look the same, but I could make them look different and could add those different pieces in. So this gives me the ability to, once again, not have a highly technical person be able to make changes quickly to even such a complex thing as their web-based chat. All right. As we continue to fly through all this, we talked about speech analytics and how it works. We looked at that. With all this, let's talk for a moment. We've talked about the speech analytics. We've talked about the quality management piece. We mentioned just in passing customer callback. The system does allow customer callback. It can be done either in a queuing option or a web callback form, or with intelligent IVR, which we'll look at in a moment. You can do it from there as well. We saw web chat, and we have the ability to add in co-browsing capabilities as well as callback, as I mentioned. You've got all those capabilities. We also do have the ability to do workforce management. I will call out that workforce management is one of the few pieces that I'm going to talk about here that is a third party. We're using Calabrio's Teleopti and hooking that in and integrating that into the system. So that is a third party piece and not something that 8x8 has brought in-house at this point in time. I want to finish up by going to something completely new. 8x8 has just this year launched their intelligent IVR product, and I want to give you a chance to see this, which I don't think we've done at all with anybody in the CCP program before. Intelligent IVR is a product to allow more advanced IVR capabilities. So this allows things like speech recognition IVRs, natural language processing IVRs, biometric enrollment and authentication, the ability to integrate with almost any third-party platform through this and provide complex workflows. And it's all hooked into the virtual contact center. So you can have calls come into the virtual contact center, sent over to the intelligent IVR for these processing pieces, get the results, send that data as well as the call back to the contact center, provide information to the agent on the desktop, route the call based upon the results of all of that, and really integrate tightly. The great part about this is, once again, one of the things that I like that 8x8 consistently does is they don't just give you a tool set, they go ahead and build things with it. So there are a number of tools that you already can build out of the box that are built into work in this intelligent IVR. This is the actual interface that I got here. You'll see a bunch of the different pre-built applications. Now, obviously, some configuration has to happen here. You can't just have a smart router without having it hook into something to route. But it makes it much easier because this interface, while maybe no longer at the level where a call center manager can do this by themselves, you still have a reasonably technical person and not an expert programmer to be able to make and build these applications. You start off with a framework, and let's maybe look at the order lookup here. I'm just going to choose that and hit next. It's going to ask me for a name. I can also tag it if it's going to go into a category and add various tags to it. You'll note I can choose my text-to-speech voice. I can look at things like machine detection, beep detection, operator transfer to be able to make it easier to work. And it's going to go build my task for me a little bit and put it into a graphical interface where it's very easy to work with this. So I can see the entire flow and work through what's a relatively complex workflow in a very easy to understand process. I can go into any of these, like for example, the introduction, and now I can choose what prompt I want to use with it. I can change it to a text-to-speech prompt, or I could go to a variety of other pieces, including using, this hooks into OpenSpeech using both Google's Dialogflow or IBM Watson as the backend for natural language processing. When I work through one of these, I can go ahead and test it in real time, so I don't have to save this and actually, go test it through the whole call flow. I can test it right in the application to make sure it's working correctly with my test button here. Can't do that right now because I'm on a call with you all on the same computer, so it won't quite work. But this allows me, as a person who's developing this, to go ahead and test and make sure everything's coming out right. calls, like I said, can be then routed to these individual workflows from the contact center, processed through, and the information sent back as the call is transferred back to the contact center. But this makes what's a very, very complex process a lot cleaner and easier to understand, and a lot easier to work through in providing advanced applications. Everything from a simple, hey, look, let's make sure and route people by zip code, if you saw that as one of the objects in there, to the very advanced, I want to do a biometric authentication to allow people to use VoicePrint to authenticate themselves. All of that's a possibility with Intelligent IVR. So wow, did we just run through a whole heck of a lot of stuff? I want to just mention briefly the value add that Vertical brings to this. Once again, we have the expertise in all of this. And from your perspective, if you want to know more, if you want to get into this, we're happy to really deep dive into some of these components and spend a couple hours if you want, so that you understand what the state of the art is and what the capabilities are here, and get into it a little more. For the customer, there's our professional solution engineering, which stays through the whole process, the design of all the various call flow pieces, whether it's the contact center, the IVR pieces, and even professional development on that. We have a dedicated custom software development team that has 20, 30 years of experience developing telephony projects. And when I say that, I don't mean we got one guy named Ed who does this stuff for us, which is what too many companies actually mean when they say that. We have a whole development team that's been building entire PBXs for years, and they do projects like this all the time. So this is something that, we do projects for companies like CVS Pharmacy, for Macy's, for H-E-B Grocery, and a lot of others of this type. So definitely something that we can provide a really high level experience for you on that. So only got a couple minutes left. I want to make sure we do get to questions though. So I'm going to stop talking for a moment and say I just went through about 4 million things. I'll go through a couple questions in chat. I see people have already put some things here. That's great. The question is everything I'm showing here today available? Yes, absolutely. This is all in production stuff. I don't show futures. If we want to talk about what the future roadmap is, we can talk about that sometime. But everything I'm showing is in the product today. The other question is it all available and it's included, or is there a cost differential? Well, there is to some of these parts and pieces. So you remember I showed you all the X chart here. And so the X6 comes with voice, it comes with the call flows, it comes with skills-based routing and callback and post-call survey. It comes with the ability to see the individual customer experience journey. It comes with the built-in CRM and knowledge-based capabilities. All that's there. So on the X7 is when you add in, I want to be able to do web chat, email processing, SMS processing, social. All of that gets added into the X7 side of things. And then the X8 brings in the outbound calling capability, brings in that quality management evaluation and that speech analytics interface. So those are in the X8 level. So there's a different cost point. You can also add it on to the X6 or X7 a la carte. But really, if you're going to do that, it makes sense very quickly to get up to the X8 piece, because that's the way the pricing model is designed, basically, right? The other cost piece here would be recording. As I mentioned, 30 days of call recording is built in. But if you want to do screen recording, you're going to need some storage. And that's, a few dollars per user. So depending upon what you want to do there, you can also extend out that 30 days to 130 days, put in a year, 2, 3 years of retention, depending upon what you want to do. And those are cost add-ons as well. The Intelligent IVR that I showed you is absolutely a cost add-on. You're buying that per simultaneous call port. So that is, just like most high-end IVRs like that, going to be several $100s per port. So that is a piece to consider and has a separate cost. And it has a, sliding scale depending upon if you just want to advanced DTMF-based routing, if you want to do speech recognition, if you want to do natural language processing, if you want to add in the biometrics. Each of those is a step level up. And that can get, where you're talking about $400 or $500 a port. Okay, so what other questions? What else can I talk to you about? I know I just flew through so much here and I just scraped the surface on a lot of it, but I wanted you all to see the capabilities and what's included in the package and give you the idea. Are there other questions? You can either enter them in the chat or unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask them.
Kevin, can you touch a little bit on the inherent capabilities and anything that is connected to 8x8? Like we were talking prior to the meeting about different companies that actually acquire products and incorporate those. Tell us a little bit about the homegrown capabilities of 8x8 Contact Center.
Well, so I think intelligent IVR is a great way to understand what goes on there. Is 8x8 has a very, very powerful development team that works on all of this, but they also know that they don't get all of their ideas on their own. They go out and they acquire companies. Their most recent one is WaveCell, which is their new CPaaS platform that they've acquired. And they're basically operating as a standalone at the moment. And what's going to happen is over time, you'll see it more and more integrated into the product. We're seeing that already with intelligent IVR. And eventually, I think instead of being, hey, here's the intelligent IVR interface, it'll be right in the contact center piece as they drop it in more deeply. But when they do something like that, they generally, except for with workforce management, they generally don't partner. They go out and buy the company so that they own all the intellectual property and all the code, and then they develop and expand on it as well. And that's one of the differences. They're not the organization that goes out and makes third-party partnerships a lot. They spend most of their time buying the IP that they want and integrating into the product. And so that's a different model than I think a lot of people out there, and they try and get those value and advantage of the integration of all the pieces.
Well, we really appreciate your time today. You provide a lot of detail, and the good news is this is recorded, so you can go back and take a look. And it looks like anybody else have questions at the very end? I didn't see anybody unmuting, but maybe. Okay. Well, thanks again for joining us. If you do have additional topics, especially in the contact center area, if there's gotchas that you're looking at, issues that you've had along the way, please let us know. Make sure we get information to you. If you want to have another session on specific topics, happy to do that. So again, thanks so much. The recordings will be available on your CCP page. Let me know how we can help. Absolutely stay safe. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Kevin.